Hello and welcome back. Amber here, and I am joined by my good friend Tracy. And today we are counting down our top 10 moments from the Jordan Kahn casting crew of the Wheel of Time Q&A. I'm gonna jump in here, and there's one thing that I've been really interested in, and it's this mystery set location that's featured heavily in season 2.
That's my number 2.
Rafe said there is blood, visual effects, water, resetting of costumes, unsetting of costumes, change of costumes. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that has to be the arches inside the tower testing.
Yep, that's what I wrote down. At first, it kind of looks like it could be Aiel-esque, just the tones of colors and everything, and kind of like the carving in the background. But then when...
like a Ruidion set.
Yeah, like when he listed all of the things that happened, I was like, that has to be. It has to be a testing. It has to be.
If it was the Ruidion set, like there is water. I'm thinking of Rand calling forth water at the end of Shadow Rising. And I could see
costume changes?
Blood and visual effects, but the costume changes is the question mark there.
Yeah. Like that was what got me. It was like the costume changes. Because I was like, well, if that's the case, like you have those 3 separate incidences in and out of the arches. Plus, like when they come out of the arches, they're not wearing anything at all. So wear costume, take a costume off. Repeat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did see some people saying that perhaps it could be the heart of the Stone of Tyr. And I was like, okay. But water? I'm not
and costume
thinking
changes.
of a water. Yeah. And there's a quote here from Sarah Nakamura. She said, there are some moments that happen within this room that we're sitting in that are so incredibly powerful and rip me to shreds. And I'm really excited for fans to see it.
Yes.
And I couldn't think of anything within the Stone of Tyr that would rip someone to shreds. The only thing that I'm thinking of is maybe when there's that fight at the beginning of the Shadow Rising, and there's that attack within the Stone of Tyr, and Rand is trying to reanimate a child who has died, and he's, pushing all of the one power into this child, and they have to be like, Rand, you can't, it doesn't work that way. You can't do it. I mean, that's the only really heartbreaking thing that I can think of within the Stone of Tyr.
But the arches.
I think the arches, and there's some visual clues. Like I went through and zoomed in and looked around, and there's a figure that looks like the wheel that's kind of similar to some of the other iconography that is within the White Tower. And it looks different, but it could be that it's not lit like it is for a shot that they're usually doing within Tar Valon. Or it's in the basement, so it's just looking a little musty and dusty. I think the big thing for me is visually is when they put our maidens, when they put our maidens there and they were talking, I was like, okay. So with them in that location, my brain was immediately like, okay, the Stone of Tyr. And I think it was just a little like trick of imagery where I'm trying to guess on what I'm looking at depending on who I'm seeing there.
Yeah. I think the other thing about it that makes me feel like it's probably the rings, like for the testing of the accepted, and is that it has a bit of at least from what I was able to tell, it has a bit of a rough hewn look to the room, and I feel as though those areas beneath the tower are frequently described as like kind of having that look to them. Like they're not necessarily like the rest of the tower. Like there are probably touches, like you said, that iconography, like the like zooming in and looking at like the little things that have been carved in. That was another thing where I was like, I think this all ties together to be a White Tower location.
Same.
Yeah.
And that's when we have these moments that
Rip
could
us
rip
to
someone to
shreds.
shreds. I'm
Exactly.
just thinking of the Nynaeve testing that
Right?
I feel like in the teaser that we got last July. Oh my God, that was so long ago.
That's
I
almost a
think that,
year ago.
yeah, we've seen some images of Nynaeve like standing in this copse like a meadow, and there's
Mm-hmm.
long grass, and
Yes.
it's just really pretty. And I'm thinking that has to be coming from her testing,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no braid. It's a very different looking shot. And I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like it's a pretty
I feel like it's a pretty good possibility.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like this is the time for Nynaeve's testing.
Absolutely.
So
That's the other thing is like, as far as the books go, it's time for that to happen for her. And then also to say that it's going to show up for a bit in season 3. We have
Elaine and Egwene up to
exactly.
bat.
Yep. So we still have 2 novices in our main crew who have to test for the accepted, and if they're not going to do 2 testings this season, it would make sense to put another one. He says for a bit in the 3rd season, and so I'm wondering if like they'll structure it where they've done this massive scene to show what the accepted go through or the novices go through to become accepted, but then in the next season they'll just show them like walking up to the arches and that will be it, and we won't get like all of the stuff inside it.
Yeah, and I mean we already did have that flashback with Egwene and Rand and
Mhm.
baby Joya, so maybe they
Mhm.
don't need to do Egwene's
Exactly.
full testing.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Would
maybe
still
they
love to
pulled
see Elaine's though.
right? That'd be pretty badass.
So what did you have?
My favorite was the maidens. Just that open, like it opened and there are 3 Aiel maidens there and I went, like just oh my gosh, in so many ways they look exactly how I picture maidens looking. Some ways totally not. Their hair's much longer than anything my mental images had ever put on a maiden, but I kind of also love it.
For TV, for an
Mhm.
adaptation, I think it's better, but
Mhm.
it's still, there's that back part of my brain where it's like, someone's gonna pull their hair and
Right?
kick them
Right?
or something.
Right. This is not a warrior's hairstyle. Like,
Yeah,
it's a bit too long, guys. At the
but
same
that's
time,
TV. That's
yeah,
TV.
they look so good. I loved the little hand talk gestures when they were saying their names. I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm not crying. I'm not crying. This is so cool. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Like they look so badass. They look so badass.
Kudos to Naomi Todd
Ah.
Joy, the language consultant, because if I'm not mistaken, that was something that she was reported on
That's
working
cool.
on. So
Very
good for
cool.
her. Good for
Yeah.
her.
It was like just that little opening gave me chills and so much hope. So that was actually my number one. The maidens were my number one, and they continued to be my number one through the whole video.
I was initially, I mean, the first thing that stood out to me, I was shocked because I was like, oh my gosh, Raga Ragnars. I was like, she's not Brigida. Look at her. Look at her. But I think like she's gonna be great. I
Oh
mean,
my
she has the
gosh.
physicality of one of the maidens, and that was initially why I was like, she would be a great Brigida. Like
Yeah.
she's so statuesque, so I could just so easily see her like drawing a bowstring. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
But this works too. This
Yeah.
definitely works too.
It makes me wonder if the Bane Chiad story is going to get a bit expanded.
Well, they're shooting for season 3 right now, and Bane and Shiad, their big
Oh, yeah.
debut is The Shadow Rising,
Yeah.
so that would fall in line with everything else. I'm excited. I'm
Me too.
excited.
Me
They have
too.
a really great dynamic
Ugh.
in
I
book 4. It'll be really fun to see it play out.
I think, oh gosh, I can't remember the question, but the answer came from the actor playing Chiad. I wrote down her name. Is it Maya Simmons? Simmons, something like that? I have to open my notebook again, sorry. But when she was like, I have to have Raga with me. This is actually on my list as well of takeaways from the thing is how hype the actors seem about the show, how much fun they seem to be having with each other. Like, I don't know. There's something about when a cast comes together and is having fun that makes me feel like so much of their heart is going to be in this show too. They found a part of it that feels good for them. And I get so excited. I can't even talk. Apparently, I get so excited.
All right. So this is coming from Rave. Quote, one character that I love and I'm very excited to see come to screen is Elida. She's incredibly complex in the books. You think she's a dark friend, but she's not a dark friend. And it's interesting for the antagonistic role that she plays. And I am just like, yes, yes. I have been saying this for so long that Elida is not a beloved character because she is kind or
Right.
relatable.
No.
She is a very interesting character because of how much depth and how much is going on behind her.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think personally that makes characters from a book or a TV show feel relatable and feel true, like a real person,
Mm-hmm.
is where you can kind of, I don't want to say sympathize for them,
Mm-hmm.
but get into their headspace so you know exactly why they're making the decisions that they are making.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at Cersei Lannister.
Right.
She
Yeah.
is not like a fun,
Mm-mm.
happy, lovable character,
No.
but Lena Headey, like, I mean, this is like a top tier performance, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Absolutely.
This is what I've been wanting to know and see and hear about Elida. So
Yeah.
this to me feels like a confirmation
Yeah.
that whoever we're going to get is going to just blow me away. Like you want someone that's so almost instantly
Yes.
hateable where you're
Yes.
just like, "Oh, villain."
Yes.
Absolutely. Like the moment she walks in, you know that's the
Mm-hmm.
one. Like
Yeah.
she is just going to be the worst.
I can't wait.
And I love a good villain character
Mm-hmm.
though. I have to like preface that though with like I love a good character that's a villain that feels real, where you can
Mm-hmm.
understand why they're making the decisions they do and it
Yeah.
doesn't just feel like I'm a big bad guy, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be mean. Everything that Elida does comes for a reason. And Elida does what she does because of a little bit of pressure and help from the outside. She's a little bit of an unwitting villain. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like that about her.
I think the thing about Elida that makes her like another layer that makes her a good villain is that she thinks she's saving the tower. She thinks that she's stepping into a role that hasn't been used properly in this critical moment in world history. Like, the dragon has been reborn, the last battle is coming, and Swan Sanche, Elida's gonna save everyone. Like, that's kind of where she's coming from in some ways. And just to see it all be like, just go to shit is so fun. It's so fun. The thing about that, though, that comment from Rafe, I was like, how can you say that? How can you say she's not a dark friend? You can't say that. Like, that's one of the best things about her is always being like, she's got to be a dark friend. She's got to be a dark friend. She can't be this evil and not be a dark friend. And like, he was just like, she's not. And I'm like, Rafe, how did that get by? Because he's like, I hope that's not a spoiler for anyone at JordanCon. I was like, well, it's might be a spoiler for anybody who's interested in this show and decides to watch this video and now they know. Like, I would not have let that slide.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think that her crowning moment relies on this, like, not a dark friend, because the deeper thing behind it is that she's not a dark friend, but she's unwittingly used
Mm-hmm.
by a certain group of people
Mm-hmm.
for a reason. And that
Yeah.
reason is more interesting than whether or not she's a dark friend.
I agree with you. I was just kind of flabbergasted because I've kind of figured that that would be something that they would want to kind of keep in the shadows in a way. So I also appreciated Rafe's statement about Elida. I think that the actor for Dane is maybe a little too good looking.
Is that your number? Is that your
Yep, that's
number
my
three?
that's actually my number 3. The actor for Dane is way too good
Wait, what
looking.
are we? Four.
I think
Four.
4. On my list it's 3. But yes, I was like he comes on, I was like, is that Gawain? This golden-haired beautiful
I mean, now
man?
you just have to up the ante because who's, I mean,
What?
if that's Dane
If that's
Bornhold, who's
fucking
playing
Dane
Galad?
Bornhold. Right. I was just like, you guys, I are they going for like just the most beautiful cast ever? Is this like I was just like, I okay. And at the same time, like being incredibly good looking can be disarming and something that he'll like be able to use to his advantage, I guess, as a white cloak.
I don't know. I can't picture a white cloak flirting their way out of
Oh no,
anything.
no. No, no, that actually flirting was not what I meant. More like from an audience's perspective, I think when you see someone who's like kind of just like that, like, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. And to see them go through what Dane is going to go through, where Dane is going to take things, what's going to happen to him by the end, like it's almost more uncomfortable in some ways when the person's really good looking because you're like, they're going to go on a really dark, dark, dark journey. And that's kind of fun.
Dane is not a character that I've ever thought about like what he looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So
Same,
I don't
but
know. I
not
didn't
like
I
that.
didn't picture someone so young, I guess.
Young, yes. I figured somebody young. Just because he is, you know, the son of. And for me, especially
But
when
how
I
old
was
is
reading it.
Joffrem?
Well,
Like, is
okay, so
Joffrem?
yes, very good point. Very good point. Dane could be much older because Joffrem was older. Like, at least he looks
Yeah.
older. Like, he looks like he could have a son who's like easily in his 40s, you know?
Joffrem looks like he's also a very nice looking older man.
They've just
So
like what the hell? I'm not going to object to all of these beautiful human beings being together in one place. It's just like, wow, you guys, wow.
okay. So my next one is coming from Priyanka.
Okay.
And for one, I adore her. She is one of the most beautiful, funny, all the things. But she
Yes.
said the action sequences were by far the most laborious for me. I don't come
Mhm.
from a background of doing action, but it was incredible when I saw the final and then they cut her off. And to me, this was exciting because we are going to potentially be seeing the Green Aja actually fighting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for the most part, everything that she's done in season one has been effects.
Yes.
So channeling, like that's her strength, that's her weapon.
Yeah.
For her to say that there's action sequences,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
okay. So we're going to have some fighting by the Green Aja, and it's going to be nice to see because how many times have we been like, what is the Green Aja really doing?
Right? Why does the
Like,
battle Aja just hang out inside the White Tower and do nothing?
they're drinking margaritas, having like, watching the warders. I think it's hilarious, but
It
it's
sounds
almost
like a
like
good
a
time.
joke. Now I'm like, okay, they're gonna be fighting, so
Well, and
that's exciting.
it fits in also with like that trailer moment where Nynaeve is fighting
Ooh, I
hand to
have a new
hand
theory.
combat. Ooh, tell me.
What if, because Nynaeve isn't accepted,
Uh-huh.
what if this is something that they have to go through when they become an accepted, is kind of doing like a apprenticeship under each Aja,
Ooh.
where it's like now you go to your,
Yes.
herb classes where you
Yes.
teach how to where you learn how to heal, and maybe we will get to see a better breakdown of what all the Ajas
Ah,
are
I
doing.
love this.
New theory.
I
New
love this.
theory.
I love this. I can see it in my head. I love this.
Because that would make sense for her to be doing an action sequence in that teaser that we got in July where Nynaeve is fighting.
Good theory. I am down. Kind of along those lines, but a little bit different is the comment that Sarah Nakamura made about the elevated portrayal of the magic system. And I am
Okay.
excited about that. Like, she describes it as like intricate and beautiful. And like, we do have these moments, of course, for channeling in the first series, and they were done well. But I am excited that it is not going to be the standard that we see through the rest of the show, that they've made changes to it that is potentially going to feel more nuanced and connected to the world that the show takes place in. And also the fact that now we're going to be seeing more channeling from men and women potentially. So, how will they differentiate those? Will they be different for each person who channels in some way? Like, I'm really curious to see what that means, this elevated form of magic.
And it's going to be nice getting a more visualized difference between Saidi and Saidar.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, I loved everything having to do with Logain. And I thought
Yeah.
that for me, visually, some of the best CGI in season one came from the
Mhm.
Logain scenes, whether he was channeling himself or being gentled, whatever. Like that
Yeah.
looked really sharp.
It did.
And I have a feeling, there will be more male channelers. So, yeah.
Excited. I'm excited. I'm trying really hard to cling to this hope that they are just finessing the shit out of everything that they're doing. And little comments like this are feeding that hope for me.
Okay. So the next thing that I have is the question, a trait that you have in common with your character.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Jennifer Garcia's answer, the actress that plays Leanne.
Yeah.
And she said, I would have to say our loyalty. We have a lot in common. We've both gone through a lot, and we still want to fight for the good. And when
Mm-hmm.
she said that, all I could think of was going straight to her time with Swan Sanche and what they go through
Yep.
together
Yep.
and how much of a journey that's going to be. And what I'm envisioning now is I know that this actress has also done a lot of fight choreography because of previous TV shows that she was on.
Yeah.
So I'm almost wondering if we are going to see like a physical Leanne. Like
Mm-hmm.
when she and Swan are basically dragged into the dungeons, and stilled, are we going to see a Leanne that's just fighting tooth and nail for her Amerlin? I think that would be a really compelling moment to show.
She just looks like a total badass. Like, I can see her being that fierce defender for Swan in a moment of need. And that would just be
Yeah,
like incredible, incredible. And I think actually her costuming maybe even gives us a hint to her physicality, because that scene in season one when they're like all in the hall of the tower together, I think we both noticed that she's wearing pants, which, I mean, not that you can't fight in a dress, but if you're a fighter, I would assume that like things that allow for ease of movement like pants is probably preferable. I
yeah.
don't know.
I feel like we might be getting the stilling in season three just because of how things
Mhm.
line up.
Yeah.
And for her to say that, it made me think that it was something fresh in her head that she was just learning lines for or
Yeah.
actually, potentially shooting for. So if that was fresh in her head, I could see her being like, loyalty. That's where we are the same.
Oh
Because I
my
think,
gosh. I just had a thought. If that is the case, if the stilling is in season 3 and Jennifer is still talking about being with Swan, that means that even though in the books we get that change in age appearance, like they look like much younger women, and I think we've talked about like, are they going to change the actors that are playing Swan and Leanne? If this is the case, then I think the answer is probably definitely no.
why?
If she is like going through this journey with Swan, staying with Swan, then this is post-stilling as well, potentially.
They could be shooting, this whole segment of her fighting and trying to save Swan, and then that's
And
it
then
for the
that's
character,
that.
and they bring in someone. Yeah.
Totally
I mean,
different.
I think it would be fine either way, though. I am not set on either. But I
Yeah.
do think that if you really wanted a like WTF visual representation, like you show them being hauled into a cell somewhere and you don't see their face, and then the next time you cut to them and it's a woman who looks 30 years younger,
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe not 30, but someone who looks a lot younger, you would be like, what just happened? And
Yeah.
that might get a little bit too into like uncanny valley for people where it would be like, what? But I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I appreciated, so one of my takeaways is the loyal love that came across from, I think it was from Daniel Henney and from Raga Ragnar. Did I say her name right? Raga Ragnar? Because she was the one where they were like, if you could be any other character, and she was like, I'd be loyal. He's just cool. Like, he talks cool, puts a cool vibe into his character. And I was like, I appreciate this because I feel like we didn't really get a whole lot of time with Loyal in the first season. And he looks like he's at the end of his life at the end of the first season, too. So to. What are you
I'm
laughing
still
about?
Oh no, I'm just like I'm still like in disbelief over like
Right.
Loyal getting stabbed, but
Right. It
it's
just,
like what?
why?
Okay, okay,
It
okay.
just, that whole scene, that whole scene. But I just liked that because I think Loyal is such a gentle, thoughtful character in the books. And I think he's like a favorite for like book readers. And to see like the actors give him a bit of love, like, I liked it.
Well, the thing that stood out for me when they were talking about Loyal is yes, like Loyal is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what you see in season one doesn't necessarily tell you that he's a cool character. He's like
Yeah.
lovable and peaceful and kind and smart.
But.
But, but if
Mm-hmm.
they are now shooting for season three, which is The Shadow Rising,
Right.
that is the first time that you see Loyal go into battle.
Oof.
So all of this Loyal love might be kind of a hint at people are like, holy shit,
Mm.
Loyal's fighting. And he doesn't just fight, like he has some like really like wicked, I mean, ferocious
Yes.
energy. And
Yes.
that is not what I think just the casual TV fans know, like
Yes.
they're like, oh, he's nice, he's happy, the setting,
Yeah.
not like I'm gonna rip a tree out of the ground and use it as a club to slaughter people. So, like, all the Loyal love might be also people being like, oh, dang, Loyal is cool. Like,
Well,
holy
okay.
shit, Loyal is cool.
So my thought on that is that the two people who like talk about this, who are like loyal, like
They're
really,
physical,
they're
they're fighters.
physical. It's the actress playing Bane and it's Daniel Henney playing Land. So those two people have probably seen the actor playing Loyal practicing the physical parts of what comes along with him being in Ogier in the series. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. I love that.
It would also make sense when they were talking about the problems with the clothing
Mm-hmm.
and all of the prosthetics and whatnot, because
Yeah.
if he's doing these physical things, that is just hands down, that would have to be so hard. He's
Yeah.
not a stunt performer.
Right.
He's like he's a theater guy.
Yeah.
Like, so this has to be a whole different world for him. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure all of this love that he's getting just makes me really excited to see season three, even though it's
Mm.
probably like 4 years away. So fun times. Fun times.
That is such a
So
good point.
excited
I know,
for the
right?
future.
It feels good to have hope again. It feels good to have hope again.
So my last one was Rafe saying that it's exciting for the stories in the White Tower, the novices, the accepted,
Yeah.
and how Nynaeve and Egwene function in this world and how they meet Elaine. So, for one, that makes it sound to me like we do meet Elaine in the White Tower, which I kind of
Mm-hmm.
assumed after the Elaine teaser.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with everything that Rafe has said about, I mean, there's so many clues here. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about this mystery room, which we think is for the accepted test,
Yes.
and how much attention and love that location is getting from he and Sarah Nakamura.
Mm-hmm.
So, more attention to the love of the novice and the accepted and the stories within the White Tower make me feel like it's going to be a really important plot for the next two seasons,
Yeah.
because in the other books, like we are not really there for that long. We're there for a couple of books, and then the tower is no longer a place for
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
lovely actresses
Yeah. Yeah.
like Nynaeve and Egwene and Moraine. And
Yeah.
it's going to be an important part of the story that we're going to have to get between season two, season three, before our characters no longer go there anymore.
Yeah.
After that, it's just Elida
Mm-hmm.
and Posse.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
got to get it all in. And I feel like it would make sense to really ramp up that plot line and show the bonds. We've got the announcement for the Shiriam
Was
actress, which is so
just yes.
exciting.
Yes. That was
So
yes.
I do think a lot of stories revolving around what the accepted and novices go through. We have the
Yes.
Mistress of Novices.
Yes.
We have a lot of attention to what we think is the testing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all signs are all roads. No, I'm not going to make that joke, but yeah, like this is what it feels like. So seasons two and three, lots of focus on White Tower, lots
Mm-hmm.
of focus on the Shan Chen, that was my wild card pick in case we both picked the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also the Aiel. So I think those are going to be like our bigger storylines, and then maybe a little bonus White Cloak.
Dirty Weasel Boy time. Golden haired dude in charge of the Dirty Weasel Boys. That's just wild. It just gets me. I do want to just say about Shiriam, the actress that is going to be playing Shiriam Rima Tiwiata. Um, her little clip in the video had me rolling. I don't know if it was supposed to be at least mildly humorous, but I loved it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. And when she was like at the very end of it, she was saying something about the connection between Shiriam and the novices and accepted, and Shiriam the other Aes Sedai. And I think that's another point to what you're saying, that it's going to be White Tower focused. And I also think it's important for that because having an emotional tie to the White Tower and then seeing what happens to it will make that split even more compelling for an audience. So setting this up like this, considering what's going to happen at the end of the series, is just like, it's smart. I think that's actually really smart to take that direction if that's where they're going with this. I actually do have a bit of a bonus, and it's kind of focused on you. Cuz we
Okay.
had talked about like people we would want to potentially interview, and I had suggested possibly the costume designer from season 1. And if I caught it correctly, it is not the same costume designer this year. Priyanka was saying something about how, like, they were talking about costumes, and Priyanka was saying something about how Isis had started them off, and then I think she said Sharon had just elevated it for the next two seasons and had built on it. So I think we have a different costume designer. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. I
Okay.
do not.
Okay. I was just wondering if that's something we might want to like dig into and find out, because I'd love to see who it is and what other work they've done to kind of get an idea of where our costumes might be going, because I really liked the costumes. A lot of them from season 1.
I thought the Aiel costumes were a little bit different than I expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I pictured like the cotton sword to be more like a, like a turban kind of. and not the shufa. I'm sorry, the shufa is more of like a turban.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just one shot that we got. So who's to say there's not going to be
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would absolutely make sense
different
too.
looks
Yeah.
for, that could have just been like, oh, like this is what they were shooting in that day. So come on down while we ask you questions. Because if they're shooting for season 3, then they're out of the waste,
Yeah.
most likely. So they don't need all of that sun, heat, sweat protection.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super stoked for the IO.
I'm also very excited, but I think it's time that we
Yeah.
wrap it up. So, like and subscribe to the channel if you want more of this Wheel of Time stuff. It's almost time. It's almost time. I feel it. We're going to get something here soon. Maybe an announcement. So,
I'm ready.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will see you back next time.